Hey everyone, it's Pink Apple again, and I'm really excited to be back in the tribute scene. Today, we're diving into the new Almalexia deck. I'll be explaining to you how I personally utilized Almalexia to secure a rank 1 finish in this last rank season. Before we get into ranking the specific cards, let's briefly go over the two new mechanics you'll be seeing on them, Donate and Confine. When you play a Donate card, you'll be given the option to discard one card of your choice from your hand, and then draw another card to replace it. You'll mostly be using this to skip over your 1 gold coins or your writs in the late game, and draw into your higher value cards or connect some important combos. A very powerful synergy with the Donate mechanic is that donated cards will trigger the bonus effects from Druid King cards such as Forest Wraith, as the donated card gets placed into your cooldown pile. Confine is a little more unique. It's an agent-only mechanic that lets you essentially trap cards from your opponent's cooldown pile. Upon selecting the cards you want to confine, they'll be trapped underneath the agent that triggered the confine mechanic, and the opponent simply doesn't have access to those cards until they manage to take out said agent. Once they manage to kill your agent, the cards will be returned back to their cooldown pile. However, even if your opponent can kill your agent and get their confined cards back, if their deck has cycled already since you trapped those cards, then they effectively still lost one use of those cards in that match. Now that you understand the basics of the new mechanics, let's jump into some cards. Starting out with my favorite Almalexia cards to see on the opening board, we have Bardic Veneration, as well as its upgrade, Festival of Forbearance. These cards give a guaranteed 2 coin on play, which is the gold standard for the early game. And then we always get to donate a card without needing to land a combo. On top of that, if you can combo with just one other Almalexia card, to do another donate. I want you guys to think of these cards like a more consistent version of Toll of Flesh from the Duke of Crows deck. And while donating a card is a bit weaker than just plain drawing a card, we always get to do a donate mechanic every time we play Bardic versus having to combo the Toll of Flesh. And sometimes we get to donate twice. The solid gold generation in a deck that overall lacks economy, as well as the consistency of their utility, that's both of these cards in S tier ranking for me. The upgrade here is giving us 1 extra power on combo, which is a really nice bonus, but shouldn't quite change the way you're buying these cards. Next up, we have a very interesting card with huge combo potential in Philanthropy. Sitting at a very low 3 gold cost, we get 1 coin on play, as well as a donate on both combo 2 and combo 3. Most importantly though, Philanthropy has this wow and play effect that grants you 1 power whenever you discard a card. And do remember that donated cards count as being discarded. This means if you can combo 2 Philanthropies together, you can start to see some pretty big power gains. Throw in 1 or 2 more Almalexia cards and you can easily start seeing numbers like 15 or 20 prestige being generated from this card. The Almalexia deck as a whole is mostly a supportive deck that can glue together your other deck combos. But Philanthropy really breaks out of that mold, and if you manage to pick up 2 copies of it, then you enable this whole new win condition for your deck. That being said, the card does have some downsides that manage to keep it just shy of S tier for me. Only generating 1 gold on play definitely hurts any card's viability as an early game pickup. And this often can result in you not being able to hit the crucial 6 gold total that you really need to be landing on turns 3 and 4. In that regard, Philanthropy plays pretty similarly to Scratch in the early game, but at least when Scratch does combo, it can be a very powerful card. But Philanthropy doesn't get any extra gold when you land the combo in the early game. Despite its lackluster early game strength, Philanthropy scales great into the mid game, and once that investment pays off, the card can just win games on its own with its combos. The card sits in a very high A tier for me. Mother's Mercy is a very unique card with tons of extremely powerful use cases. On play, we get to instantly take any card from our cooldown pile and put it right into our hand. If you just played Currency Exchange last turn, you get to play it again this turn. Maybe your opponent just killed your Fen Witch, well now they have to deal with it again. You can even play the rest of your hand, buy a card from the tavern, and then play Mother's Mercy to immediately play the newly purchased card. These are all extremely powerful moves, and the late game potential of Mother's Mercy easily earns it a spot in the S tier for me. That being said, I'm not a fan of picking this card up in the first couple of turns. I view Mother's Mercy on the opening board similarly to how I view the Dreaming Cave. Once you have 2 or 3 strong cards, these premium setup cards become far more appealing. But at the start of the match, when we have a blank deck, buying a Mother's Mercy will take up your whole turn at the 5 gold cost. And then when you end up drawing it, chances are you're going to be bringing back a 1 gold coin to your hand. That's assuming you don't draw it at the start of a deck cycle and have nothing to refresh at all. These factors don't take away from the card's immense late game potential, but be careful picking this card up in turns 1 and 2. One extra thing to note here is that if you ever have 2 Mother's Mercy, you can always gain an extra power if you use 1 Mother's Mercy on the other, and then using the second Mother's Mercy grab the card you actually want to refresh. The upgrade adds 1 extra coin on the combo, and once again, this is a nice bonus, but shouldn't really change when you're deciding to buy Mother's Mercy. Next up, we have Temple Arbiter, a 6-cost agent that gives 2 gold on activation and has a couple of confined combos as well. If you've seen my past videos, you probably realize by now how I really value the agents that give 2 gold on activation. It's a very powerful dynamic to have a writ that stays on the board every turn, forcing your opponent to find efficient ways to deal with it. However, the confine mechanic has not been as consistently powerful as I think most players had anticipated it to be. So a lot of the value here for me is really resting in this 2 gold on play. This in mind, the card can be immensely powerful at improving your early game economy, and in the context of the first few turns, this is an S tier pickup they should be looking out for. But overall, as the game state progresses and that 2 gold becomes less and less important, the card settles at about a B tier for me. Lesson of AM allows us to donate a card on play, then on combo 2 we get to draw a card for free. Then we get another donate on combo 3. You can think of lessons as the glue that really keeps your Almalexia deck together. On its own, it's not really improving your deck in itself, but used in combination with other Almalexia cards, you can really start forcing your combos together, and the card plays exceptionally well with Philanthropy. The card functions similarly to how Pilfer works for the Duke of Crows deck. My general rule of thumb for these sorts of cards is I like to have at least 2 cards improving my economy before I pick something like Lessons of AM up. This could be something like Scrying Globe plus a Sleight of Hand, or even just 2 writs. Overall, I would give the card a B tier rating. The card adds a lot of consistency to your Almalexia combos, but doesn't quite globally slot into any deck the way Bardic Veneration or Mother's Mercy can. We're paying a massive 8 gold cost for Tribunal Sentinel, and for it we get a 5 health taunt agent that has no effect on play, but on combo actually grants us a second patron ability the same way comboing a currency exchange does. Extra patron usages is a very unique effect, and having just 1 Tribunal Sentinel can start applying immense amounts of patron pressure, almost guaranteeing a patron victory if your game lasts long enough. On top of that, the fact that this is a high health taunt agent synergizes quite nicely with the rest of the Almalexia deck. As while I think the confine mechanic tends to not be very powerful, if you can hide your confine agents behind the Tribunal Sentinel, then your opponent can have a really difficult time of ever getting their high value cards back. These aspects in mind, Tribunal Sentinel is an immensely powerful card in the right situations, but the main issue that Sentinel runs into is the 8 gold cost. If you know your match is going to be going deep into the late game, Tribunal Sentinel is an S tier pickup. In the context of the average match, you really have to weigh out if you're going to have enough time to get the true value of the card before you and your opponent are just pushing 40 prestige. To put it into perspective, when I see Tribunal Sentinel on the opening board, I'm not immediately set on raising the 8 gold in order to pick it up, versus the way a rally or currency exchange makes you feel like you have to rush for them. Overall, I'd give the Tribunal Sentinel a B tier rating on average, but keep in mind, in certain scenarios, it could easily be the best card in the game for you. Its upgrade, Mercy Mother Elite, adds 1 coin on play. And just like the rest of the Almalexia upgrades so far, it's a nice bonus, but does not change the situations I would consider picking the card up. Before moving on, I would like to note that if you have the Halalu deck in your match, that opens up the ability to do double sacrifice turns with the Tribunal Sentinel, and that definitely increases its value. So going back to some confined agents, we have the Devotional Jailer, as well as its upgrade, the Hand of Almalexia. This is a 6 cost contract agent that grants 1 power on play, and then grants us a confine on both combo 2 and 3. I personally consider Devotional Jailer to be generally the weakest card in the deck, and usually see my opponents picking this up far too often. You have to keep in mind that you're not actually improving your deck with contract agents. You're investing 6 gold into trying to put your opponent behind here versus getting yourself ahead. And in most situations, I don't feel like you're getting enough impact here to justify not just adding cards to your deck. That being said, if you can manage to hide these behind some taunt agents, or you know with certainty that your opponent has no efficient ways to deal with agents in general, then you can start to get some long-term confines in and the card can really shine. The upgrade here gets to pull off both confines on combo 2, rather than needing to land a combo 3. And this is actually a quite meaningful upgrade in the situations that these agents are good. But the card still suffers from the same problems that Devotional Jailer has, and that nets both of them a spot in the C tier for me. And for our final card today, we have the Mournhold Clergy. Another 6-cost contract agent, this time having no play effect, but on combo 2 we get a confine as well as a donate. 1 donate and 1 confine is typically much better than 2 confines, so things are already looking good for the Clergy. But what's really the highlight of this card is its wow and play effect, which reads, when you discard any card, gain 2 prestige. When we went over Philanthropy, you may remember I pointed out that donating cards triggers the discard effect. This means you can have turns in which Mournhold Clergy is generating 10 to 15 prestige somewhat frequently in endgame decks. This is a really strong contract agent, and just like Philanthropy, it really enables the supportive Almalexia deck to have its own win condition when it shows up at the right moments. You don't want to be picking this agent up in the first few turns, but once you can set some combos up around the card, its value can be absurd. Mournhold Clergy gets a solid A tier rating for me, and I've even had to pick up the card a few times in situations where it was useless to me, but just to make sure my opponent couldn't go crazy with it on their next turn. Here are the finalized tier list positions. I know that was a lot to take in, so let's very quickly recap my thoughts on each card. Poetic Veneration is the go-to turn 1 option, and just a very consistent card in all situations. Mother's Mercy has some insane value late game, but typically should be avoided in the first few turns. Philanthropy is the core component of Almalexia combos, but be aware it can damage your economy early on. Mournhold Clergy is essentially Philanthropy, but in agent form. Lessons of AM really glues together your Almalexia decks. Temple Arbiter is a really solid card, just because all agents that give 2 gold on play are high value. Tribute Sentinel is a really expensive, but amazing pickup if you're in a really long match. And finally, Devotional Jailer is a pretty lackluster card in general, but can be really good if hidden behind some taunt agents. So what decks go well with Almalexia, and how are we typically going to be winning our matches? I find that Almalexia as a deck supports other combo decks incredibly well, with its ability to make combos connect through the donate mechanic. This leads to both Crow and Druid King being great pairings for the deck. The Psijic deck also plays great with both of those options, and also allows you to determine what cards you're getting through donate with the plethora of toss cards available in it. Just do be aware that by adding Psijic to the game, you're giving players the option to take out your Confine agents with its patron power. In general, there's 3 win conditions I try to aim for when playing Almalexia. I'm usually either enabling another combo deck to win me the game, turning Almalexia into a combo deck itself by picking up Philanthropy or Mournhold Clergy, or using the donate mechanic to constantly be drawing into and playing my big power cards like Rally or the Armory as much as possible. And that about wraps it up for the Almalexia deck guide today. If you found this insight helpful, please leave a like on the video, and you can expect to see a lot more from me soon. Additionally, if you haven't quite unlocked the deck just yet, I'll leave a link to Kathira's unlock guide in the description below. Until next time, and may the Divines bless your taverns with Turn 1 Festivals of Forbearance.